Hey guys, welcome back to my channel here, comrades. It's Lavender here, and today I'm back with another political video. Today I want to do like an environmentalism type of video, the real DPRK, science and wildlife conservation plus biodiversity efforts in North Korea, a deep dive into this. So I have made previously a video about how socialism is not damaging to the environment, like anti-communists try to say. Oh, well, communism's so bad for the environment. I made a video about the real DPRK episode on that. If you would like to check that video out, it's going to be on the screen right now. So in this YouTube video, I'll be talking about all things animal related and nature, science related, anything related to the earth itself. And I want to give a huge credit to Defend Korea and Comrade Natalie, and I really thought it was really important to put this video together because I want to show that, the DPRK is doing good things in this world. And so let's get started in this video. Number one, I'm going to be talking about wildlife conservation, environmental land protection, and forest restoration, preventing any biohazard outbreaks, and protecting biodiversity as a whole in this part of it. This is just part one. There's 3 parts. This is just part one of this whole video. The DPRK adopted the DPRK Law on Protection of Useful Animals, the DPRK Law on Fishery, and also the DPRK Law on Natural Reserves, providing a legal framework for conservation efforts to protect the DPRK's landscape and native animal wildlife in the area and in the country itself. Natural reserves, animals, and plant sanctuaries, etc. have been established across the country, as well from investigation and management and scientific researches are actively conducting on a normal basis in this country. The DPRK works very hard to keep the land green and make everything green as clean as possible, whether that be the land or the air or the water or the ocean, etc. They want to keep it clean from toxic pollutants and things like that and more. Institutes such as the Zoology Institute under the State Academy of Sciences and the Institute of Central Botanical Garden do good and great job in reporting and studying and investigating ways to promote and solve the ongoing problems in this world and in the DPRK area, as in the field of nature and science. One of the most recent things they have done and accomplished is, in recent years, they have made an active international cooperation team for protecting and promoting the conservation of migratory birds in areas and have teamed up with experts from all across the world and other countries as well. The DPRK is taking severe action when it comes to protecting people and animals from biohazards such as bacteria and viruses and parasites, working against, and researching the African swine flu fever and the bird flu. The Central Epidemic Prevention Center under the Ministry of Agriculture sent officials and experts to local areas to take veterinary and anti-epizootic measures, and the center has rapidly informed the relevant units of details on the outbreak of the African swine fever and bird flu as a whole and their damage in this world, as well as technological data on to prevent this happening in the future. Other provinces in Korea are also doing their part in protecting biodiversity and the health of, the land and all that, and protecting wildlife via wildlife conservation. One such thing is, in order to propagate a lot of pheasants and birds and thus add beauty to the mountains native to Korea, in the areas of Korea, the officials and employees of the areas that are keeping the pheasants in a technical way to increase their weight so they'll be healthy. They're also stopping biohazard outbreaks from happening in bird flocks as well, and quarantining animals to prevent the spread of diseases. When it comes to protecting the land itself via forest and land restoration, a science fact, forests actually account for 30% of the land area on the earth and 80% of animals and plants on the land are living in the forest. That's what they call home. The forest is an important carbon depot, absorbing 2,000 million tons of carbon dioxide a year. So it's called the lung of the earth. Unfortunately, due to, agriculture and mass deforestation, we're losing, the earth. The DPRK is doing a great job in protecting land before it's too late, unlike other countries, like the United States, who's not really doing that much to protect the world. Socialism is not bad for the environment, as anti-communists want you to think. Overall, capitalism is way worse for the environment, like point blank period, putting profits, over lives of the earth and the lives of animals and people as a whole. One good example in people protecting the land and forests is a local family in the DPRK has been taking care of thousands of acres of forest for nearly 70 years. They have devoted themselves to environmentalism and protecting the native land of Korea and the habitats of animals. In this area where they're helping, it was like a barren landscape. There wasn't much growing, much happening. It wasn't really green, but they slowly but surely planted trees in the areas over time, and it became, a green forest. They also have tree planting time in the DPRK as well. It's like a holiday. And another example of environmentalism in the DPRK itself is the Ogzan Nature Reserve is a good example of state protected land protected by the government. Most of the pre-venal forests in the world are pure forests, and it is extremely hard to find such a mixed forest of needle-leaf and broadleaf trees in the Mount Olga, which is the boundary line between Borilla and temperate plant distribution areas. The reserve has a variety of different plants in the area, such as gishing forest, Asian bell, and mushrooms that are used for, medicine and medication uses. Also, the many lichens collections and different types of mosses in the area as well. Lots of biodiversity. It's also known for its green foliage and diverse natural and geographical conditions. It also provides a favorable ecological environment for animals. It is home to many animals and well over 100 species of birds as well. That's just facts about that. Part 2 of this video is I'm going to be talking about the DPRK Zoo, Aquarium, and Natural Museum of the DPRK in its capital city. So the zoo in the DPRK was first constructed in 1959. It is officially the largest zoo in the country of Korea. The zoo features many animals gifted by foreign leaders, such as an elephant from Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam is one of the most predominant many examples of, animals gifted by other governments. There have been more than 300 species of animals donated by foreign heads of the state to the zoo, mostly from other socialist states like Vietnam, etc. The zoo has a total of 8 halls and 37 enclosures for the wildlife in the zoo, including those for reptiles, monkeys, dogs, elephants, giraffes, etc. The zoo covers an area of 100 acres and features over 10,000 animals and over 800 species from all across the world, different types of animals. The Natural History Museum is also located in the boundaries of the zoo grounds as well, which displays prehistoric and extinct creatures, molds, and statues and fossil collections collected within the DPRK itself. The zoo also has a research institute and breeding institute as well, and a veterinary center where they study, animal science and, just do science as a whole. The museum displays mostly models and pictures of the solar system, the Earth, our galaxy, different areas of evolution throughout history on this Earth, and also it has various extinct animals, including several dinosaurs and plants in the area of the zoo and of this natural history museum. They also have an aquarium hall in the zoo as well, a marine tunnel allowing visitors to walk underneath and beneath sharks and other fish swimming with a glass between the people and the ocean space that they're trying to replicate. Reptiles and amphibians are kept in a turtle-shaped hall within the zoo. These include crocodiles, salamanders, lizards, and turtles and all types of reptiles, as well as tropical plants that do not grow in the DPRK naturally. They're trying to replicate, the natural environment of reptiles, since reptiles are found in warmer tropical areas due to their animal biology, because they can be cold-blooded, and they need like warmth. They can't be in like a cold area. They just want to replicate its natural where they're from. The animals are from. The aquarium part of the zoo, with the total floor space of over 5,300 square meters and water capacity of 2,000 cubic meters, 1,500 cubic meters of seawater. The aquarium has 32 water tanks, including the underwater tunnel with 900 cubic meters of water, and shark tank with 300 cubic meters of water. It houses a wide variety of wildlife, as in like ocean wildlife of fish, amphibians, reptiles, and invertebrates, numbering about 5,700 in nearly 250 species of animals and fish, and among them are nearly 2,000 sea fishes and over 90 different species. Now on to part 3, the last part of this video. Now on to a story about a scientist and a zoologist in the DPRK. The story and history of Wang Honggu. He was a zoologist that was born and did research and science in the DPRK. He was very patriotic and loved his country of the DPRK and the Koreas. On display in the Korean Stamp Museum is a piece of portrait stamp with his face on it. The portrait stamp depicts a local Korean zoologist, him, who was born in 1888 and died in 1970s. This stamp was issued in June 81, 1992, in recognition of his achievements in science and for development as a whole, as in the zoology in North Korea. He began to get really interested in animals from an early age. At age 7, whenever he discovered a nest of birds in forests while playing with his friends, he would sit and observe them all day long. When he saw a deer or rabbit, he'd follow them to see where they would live and find their dens or thickets. During the Japanese military occupation of Korea, that was from 1905 through 1945, he once actually gave up his science research, and he was in sorrow over the ruined nation, but he sat down to his studies with the spirit of resistance to the Japanese imperialist colonial rule, and went around all over the country with aspiration to find out more about the species and animals he loved in his own native country. In the course of this, he completed a list of Korean birds involving over 200 species of birds, but he was actually detained by the Japanese military and police for a mere reason that he had written the word Korea on the list, because Japan did not want at that time to, like, any Korean people to talk about the accomplishments of Korea, like they hated Korea. Later in 1946, he began to engage in the education of the rising generations and research of zoology at the Kim Il-sung University. He was a very patriotic man of the DPRK. He loved his country very much, saying, "A man who turns a blind eye to the country experiencing hardships cannot be called a true scientist." He wrote many books, including the distribution of Korean birds and their economic significance. He classified and systematicalized amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals as a whole, and presented treatises to them, thus making tangible contribution to the developing world of zoology of the country of Korea, aka North Korea, aka the DPRK. He was a candidate academician, professor, and a doctor of biology. He loved what he did. He worked as a deputy to the Supreme People's Assembly from 1948 to the last moment of his life in 1970. He is just one of many examples of awesome, amazing scientists who are living and have dedicated their lives in protecting the environment and wildlife conservation, conservationship in the DPRK homeland itself.